Hello and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel, your source for all things Everton. My name's Thomas, back with another starting 11 video in preview for our game against Southampton tomorrow. Straight off from Ancelotti's press conference, we know Holgate's injured. He won't take any part, which will be a massive loss. One of our best players, not only since the restart, but probably this season. Walcott is available. He's back into training now. Delph's undergoing individual treatment, so I doubt we'll see him too until next season. And then Sidibe isn't 100%, but Ancelotti thinks he can start, which might be a suggestion that he might be looking to rotate in this game, especially with Wolves only a few days after. So just to start off, Jordan Pickford, obviously he's been a bit of a talking point amongst fans recently. Two kind of quite similar howlers against Leicester and Spurs, where the ball just goes through his hands, making rash decisions like we're quite used to seeing him do, but he's not going to get replaced yet. Stecklenberg's obviously just there as a backup goalkeeper. And Virginia is probably not good enough, especially considering how he performed at Reading before he came back in January. So Pickford's going to start in goal for the rest of the season, and until we sign a replacement, I'd imagine. If we do sign a replacement, but I'd imagine it isn't a big priority yet for the club to replace him. Digne at left back, probably one of our standout performers against Spurs. Looked a creative player, did some good. There were some good deliveries from set pieces, but everyone was quite poor against Spurs. It wasn't easy to kind of stand out. Obviously, we know Holgate's injured, so the centre-back partnership will probably just have to be Yerry Mina and Michael Keane. I think it's unlikely we're going to see Branthwaite start a game, especially considering we signed him in January. The lad's only 17, so I doubt he'll be starting this game, despite the fact that he might get some minutes before the end of the season, maybe some rotation. Ancelotti is clearly a big fan of him. Obviously, signing a contract extension 6 months after you join the club isn't a bad sign. Yerry Mina looked quite good, I thought, against Spurs when he came on. One of our more creative midfield players, remarkably, since he was playing at centre-back. And obviously Michael Keane, probably one of our better players since the restart, alongside Mason Holgate. Right back, I'm going to stick with Seamus Coleman for now. I think the Ancelotti saying Sidibe isn't 100% kind of suggests that he won't start yet, but he will be available. But I don't think we really need to see much more Sidibe. He was a loan player. We were all kind of wondering, are we going to sign him permanently? Are we going to activate the Coulston's contract? I doubt we will now. He looks like a bit of a liability. Sometimes when he comes on, running the ball out of play quite often, which is ridiculous for professional football. I think he doesn't look good enough to play right back there. And I think with John Joe Kenny coming back, it'll be more likely that we'll see him to be the deputy to Seamus Coleman than Sidibe next season. Now the midfield, obviously a massive talking point from the Spurs game. We look tired, but at the end of the day, we don't actually have many more midfielders to put in there. We've kind of only got Davies, Gomez, and Sigurdsson. And then obviously Iwobi was poor. I can see Iwobi potentially being dropped for this game. I thought he had a really poor game against Spurs, and he hasn't been brilliant since the restart, or for the majority of the season, to be fair. I can see Gordon starting on the right wing, which is where he came on when he came on for Iwobi at half-time, I think it was, against Spurs. I don't think Iwobi's good enough to start at the moment. And obviously, Gordon just showed a lot more, promise going forward. He was a lot more dangerous, tried more, creating chances. So I can see Gordon starting on the right wing, despite the fact I'd imagine he'd want to be playing on the left. Then a midfield partnership of Gomez and Davies. I think obviously it's been disappointing seeing Gomez, kind of his decline since he came back from injury. And then Davies, obviously, he was another poor performer, but he was being played out of position for the majority of the game, obviously on that kind of right midfield, kind of tucking into the centre role that he's been asked to play a couple of times under Ancelotti. I don't think Sigurdsson's going to start this game. Obviously, he got subbed off quite early by Ancelotti, and I think it was so evident of what Gylfi Sigurdsson brings, that Sky were obviously highlighting the fact he was bottling 50-50 challenges. He doesn't create enough. I don't think he can play in the central midfield role that Ancelotti wants him to play in, because he refuses to defend, and it prevents his creative output, I think, if he's kind of played in that position. So I don't want to see him starting. I can see Gomez and Davies potentially starting in central midfield. Then on the left wing, this might be an interesting pick, but I think in terms of Moise Keane, I think he has to be starting soon, because obviously, as good as Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin have been this season, I think they're looking to be more tired. Maybe can't play in the two up front with less energy. I can see Richarlison maybe starting out on the left, purely because he can be subbed off if need be, because he does look tired. He looks like he's struggling for fitness. I can see him starting on the left to allow Keane and Calvert-Lewin to play in the two up top. As much as I want to see Keane be given a chance, and I think he will be. If not tomorrow, then before the end of the season. He hasn't been good enough, really. He looked disappointed when he came on against Norwich, a bit better against Spurs, but probably wasn't given enough time to kind of impact the game. And I think this will be the time where we start seeing more rotation, whether it's forced through injuries or not, because I can't see Walcott starting on the right, so I think Gordon's going to have to be playing there. Where I think injuries now are kind of highlighting our lack of quality and depth. That, I mean, we only have 2 centre-backs now that we kind of just have to go to. Gomez, Davies and Sigurdsson are kind of our only 3 centre midfielders, but obviously be sure to check out the video that James did with Paul about the young under-23 midfielders. We could see them before the end of the season. I think the fact that Ancelotti's kind of not decided to pick them yet kind of shows maybe he's not a big fan of them. I think Adanaran, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is going to be going out on loan next season, so I don't think I can see him featuring yet. And then Benny Bellingham, as good as he was when he broke out in that Chelsea game, I can't see him coming in yet. Maybe towards like the last 2 games, maybe, but these are still important fixtures as much as Europe seems like a distant hope at the moment. I think we could even still squeeze into it, and Ancelotti will want to get as many points as he can. There's not going to be major rotation. I don't think it's not like a throwaway season. He's going to want to see what his squad can do, and I think he's had time to assess them now. I think we know Sidibe isn't good enough. I think we know Walcott isn't good enough, so he won't be starting yet. And I think he knows he needs to strengthen central midfield. And from his press conference, he also said that they're 100% going to improve this team. And I think that suggests there's going to be transfers in the summer, which I think is very important because we clearly lack, as much as depth as we might have through youth players, I think we lack quality and depth, which means when it comes to rotation games, we kind of can't afford to do it because we don't have good enough players to kind of come in for everyone else. So I think that's going to be my team for now in the end of the video. Just to kind of sum up: Pickford in goal, Coleman, Mina, Keane and Digne, Gordon out on the right with Charleston on the left with Gomez and Davies, then Calvert-Lewin and Moise Kean up front. I don't know if that's more of a hopeful side to kind of see a more attacking output than we kind of produced against Spurs, and I think change does need to be made in terms of more attacking players because we started our 3 central midfielders against Spurs and it didn't work. Clearly we need to be doing more going forwards. I think starting more attacking wingers quite traditionally, I think that's going to help a lot more. And obviously Richarlison went out left when Moise Kean came on against Spurs, so I can see that maybe from the start tomorrow, and then potentially being subbed off later on when he runs out of energy, and maybe even Calvert-Lewin maybe getting a rest at some point. But that's my team for now. Let me know what you think on Twitter or in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and be sure to check out all our social media down below. Goodbye.